Part 2, Chapter 1. Relations between Pan Wiadomski and myself deteriorated again. The new unfriendliness came solely from his side, and it coincided with a great change in the outward circumstances of his life. He began to receive callers, and if I chanced to be in his rooms when one of them arrived, he was embarrassed beyond words by my presence. He would have liked to shove me under the bed. Several times I knocked at his door, and he refused to admit me. Then once he ignored my salutation in the street. He was walking with one of his old admirers. The reasons will follow for this resumption of status, and as I lifted my hand to greet him, an angry grimace distorted his features as if he found my impudence intolerable. I took good care not to salute him again in public. What had happened was this. A new wave of reaction was passing over the country, and Pan Wiadomski was once more coming into his own, at least in part. Several anti-Semitic periodicals, which had completely dropped him, took up the old scholar again and invited him to write theoretical articles. Pan Wiadomski's star began to rise. His material condition took a turn for the better, with consequent beneficial repercussions on his health and therefore on his spirits. Or perhaps these last two items should appear in reverse order. He recovered his self-confidence, his cheerfulness, and his haughtiness. Even his external appearance underwent visible improvement. He became sturdier-looking. I attribute this expansion less to physical than to spiritual nourishment. He was able once more to feed freely on the bread of hatred, and it actually enabled him to put on flesh. For a time I thought, to my intense chagrin and disappointment, that all was over between us. But I was quite wrong. The first flush of triumphant disdain passed, and Pan Wiadomski suddenly turned up one day on the staircase of my attic. A secret visit, of course. He explained himself. Times like these, you know. You understand. No connection with our historic work, what? Our mission. That must not suffer. We must resume the task in the name of those unforgettable historic events. Again, Pan Wiadomski and I slipped into a double life, but now I use this phrase in another sense. His visits to me and mine to him were arranged furtively from occasion to occasion. During the day, we did not know each other. If we happened to meet, we avoided each other's gaze. The evenings, and not all of them, of course, were reserved for our secret conferences. But he was not easy to put up with. His hatred of Jews had, under the stimulus of the times, developed into a possessive mania. I put on one side his published articles, which were one thick stream of scurrility, sparing neither the Jews nor anything that, being progressive, was according to this attitude automatically associated with the Jews. It was the man himself, in his personal contacts, who had become almost insufferable. Delusions of grandeur crowded into his brain. If he was not running down the Jews, he was boasting that now, at last, the time had come to reveal himself in all his greatness. The seed he had sown in tears was soon to be reaped in joy. He would lift himself up on his wings. The mixture of metaphors is his, not mine, and the world would be able to see who he was, and so on ad nauseum. What he meant, in brief, was that now, at long last, his great work would come into the light of day. He talked so long, so wearisomely, so offensively, without ever coming to the point, that I began to lose hope. I even suspected that no such epoch-making manuscript existed. What with this suspicion and the constant strain on my nerves, I was almost ready to withdraw from the queer partnership. You could not press him. He was as touchy and capricious as a high-strung, fading lady. And then he suddenly abandoned generalities and lapsed back, almost with a jolt, into the role from which he had emerged into his commonplace existence. He began to speak once more of those far-off days, simply and forthrightly. But a curious difference was this: he no longer spoke in a hypnagogic condition. The reversion to the dead self took place without a struggle or a transitional state. The past lived again without annihilating the present, so that when he lapsed into the personality of the hegemon, he kept an eye, as it were, on Pan Wiadomski, the scholar and Orientalist. The revelation of his great secret, the uncovering of his priceless treasure, took place one night in his apartment. He slipped back without warning into the narrative, with the result, indeed, that for the moment I did not know who was talking to me. During a certain period, the man's activities in Galilee escaped my observation. I have not been able to reconstruct them entirely, even now. I tried to get a report on him from the old high priest, without avail. What lay behind his secretiveness, I have never been able to understand. Even when the rabbi appeared in Jerusalem and entered into vigorous disputations with the other rabbis, the nature of the disagreements and the causes of the turmoil were concealed from us. To me, at least, the high priest could have spoken, inasmuch as I had made some effort to grasp the principles involved. He chose otherwise, and meanwhile the expectation of the Messiah, the feeling of his imminence, spread to larger and larger numbers. It may very well be that I had failed to penetrate to the innermost being of the dispute. Later, when the matter came up for trial in the presence of Pontius Pilate, the latter was quite unable to understand the nature and the details of the charges. But of this I shall tell you later. However, I did manage to fill in some of the gaps in the lost record of his activities in Galilee, only some of them, and that in a superficial and unsatisfactory manner. Individual episodes were reported to me here and there. The full account I shall now obtain through you. Through me? I gasped. Why, yes, through you, through your help, Josephus. It was for this purpose that I made a bond with a member of your race and faith, though you know well enough my attitude toward it. But I have told you once before, there is no rule without its exceptions. I thank you again for the compliment, Pan Cornelius, I said, so bewildered that I added the Polish prefix to his Roman name. The moustaches bristled, the face became rigid. I beg your pardon, I corrected myself hastily, Hegemon Cornelius. Have I not told you that for us the life that surrounds us is dead? As you command, Hegemon, I am eager to help. I know it. I was aware of it from the beginning, and now, because of the solemnity and secrecy of what is to follow, I demand of you special assurance and the most binding oath known to your religion that whatever I disclose to you will remain between you and me in life and death. I want you to take this oath upon your Torah and by the light of black candles, as the custom is among you Jews. Hegemon, I answered, my mind reeling with the rapid back-and-forth transitions across some 20 centuries. The black candles and the excommunication by oath on the Torah is a custom of later times, of these times which are dead for you and me. I have already sworn, and I repeat the oath, by the sacred vestments of the high priest, by which all Jews swear, in our time, that whatever you disclose will remain between you and me in life and death. So be it, Yochanan, he said darkly. I am about to reveal to you that which no man has ever seen before, either in the present time or in the past. Pan Wiadomski pushed back his chair and bent down to one of the drawers of his enormous desk. From a secret compartment at the back, he drew forth a package wrapped in, of all things, Polish newspapers. When the outer covering was removed, I saw a second wrapping, an Indian shawl or kerchief sewn up at the edges, and within this lay a bundle of ancient papyri which emitted a damp, mildewed smell. But these were not the treasure. They had to be peeled away, revealing a sheaf of half-decayed mummy linens, and only within these lay the documents themselves, close written in the script known to us as the Samaritan. Moreover, the writing was not on scrolls, as was the case among Jews, but on sheets, in the manner of the Samaritans. My heart was pounding with excitement. Pan Wiadomski's white face trembled not less than his hands as he laid the manuscript on the table. He turned his eyes on me and said, "Do not seek, Yochanan, to discover how these documents came into my possession. That is a secret which will go down with me into the grave. You are looking now on the original records which Judah Ishkariot buried in a tomb cave outside the town of Sepphoris." I drew closer, while Pan Wiadomski kept his hand on the manuscript as though he would not trust me to touch it. My eyes fell first on some elaborate Greek lettering and one or two entire Greek sentences. It seemed that someone had begun to translate the original into Greek and had given up the attempt. I read, "The Gospel according to Judah Ishkariot," and a few subheadings. The actual text began on the second sheet and was clearly legible. "Can you read this script?" "Yes, I know the script. It is the ancient Jewish, which we call today the Samaritan, and which we still find both on Jewish coins of the time of the Second Temple and on ancient documents of the period. I know the alphabet, but it will take me some time to acquire sufficient command of it to read fluently." "Good. From now on you will come here every evening, and you will read and translate to me, word for word, faithfully and in the spirit of the original, what is written here according to your oath." "As you command, Hegemon. But before I go, let me put one question. Did you yourself, Hegemon, with your own hands, remove the writings of Judah Ishkariot from the cave where he buried them? I have told you, do not seek to discover that. My time is not yet come." There the conversation ended that evening.